All right, Shalom. First off, give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bashem Yashai Bashem Makarkadash, the honors to the apostles, the elders of GMS, salutes and honors to the elect, all the brothers across the four corners who are learning truth and sincerity, the women, the children, the future, the face who follow. So, I was watching this Colin Black and White. If you don't know what it is, on Netflix, Colin Kaepernick came out with just a little mini series about how him being black in a white world affected him. And, he has a lot of historical figures, or not really historical figures, but historical facts in there that, basically back up our claim of being, the unfortunate and the downtrodden, so to speak. So one thing that he said really resonated with me and caused me to do a little bit more research on the matter. So with that being said, I'm gonna let him speak on it first, and then I'll go into this article. So Lord's will, this is edifying, and I'll let Colin go ahead and say his part.
It's funny. You would think going out and being clearly better than your competition would be enough. But often, too often, it takes one more thing to get over that hump. Something I got as a kid. A white man's stamp of approval. America promises equal opportunity to everyone. No matter who you are, you can go to a good school, get a great job, live in a great house. But none of that is possible without that white man's stamp of approval. Don't believe me? Here, I'll prove it to you.
Before we get into that, I want to grab this quick scripture. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 48. It says, "Therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, in which the Lord Yahweh shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in the want of all things. And he shall put a yoke on thy neck, and until he had destroyed thee." And that's really what we're going through. He's going to go into it a little bit further, and some good examples. But we have to go to our enemy for the one of all things, for jobs, for food, for housing. Everything that we do is affected by this devil. He sets that standard. So I'm gonna, without further ado.
2011, Kelly Williams Bowler spent 9 days in jail for sending her daughters to a high-performing school outside of her district. She had unknowingly broken a law called boundary hopping. In the land of opportunity, that law is meant to make sure poor, underprivileged folk don't better educate themselves without that white man's stamp of approval.
Let's see if I can get a definition on this boundary hopping. All right, it says sending your child to a school outside of your district where you live can lead to arrest or $5,000 fine. It's known as boundary hopping. Parents will use a false address to enroll their children in schools they think are better or safer than those in their home district. Well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with wanting to send your kid to a better school? We all know that the inner city school system is a joke. It's the full system. Most fail out, most drop out. The ones that do, um, you know, make it all the way through, they're not nearly as prepared as people who go to these schools in the suburbs. All right, so let's let's get into the articles because it's gonna basically go in on it a little bit more because I don't see no problem with what she did, but this devil that we got. Matter of fact, before we go into this, yeah, we can say that for a second. So this is from the Atlantic. It says her only crime was helping her kids. Kelly Williams Bowler, like Felicity Huffman, was punished for trying to get her children a better education. And this is going to really show the difference between us and them. Says a few months ago, Kelly Williams Bowler started generating phone calls in the middle of the night, telling her, or started getting phone calls in the middle of the night, telling her that she was on the news again. People were tagging her on Facebook and mentioning her on Twitter. Honestly, I didn't put the two together. I didn't think other people would put the two together, she told me this week. The two together are Williams Bowler and Felicity Huffman. Both are committed mothers and daughters. Both are working women. Both have become national media sensations. Both are accused of committing crimes to obtain better education for their children. But Williams Bowler and Huffman are not so much analogs as funhouse mirrors. It's like it are not so much analogs as funhouse mirror versions of each other. Their stories of justice and injustice similar and yet distorted and converse. Huffman, who starred on Desperate Housewives, has admitted to paying $15,000 to Proctor for a proctor to correct her daughter's standardized test scores. So her daughter was getting low marks. She paid money to get them changed so that she can get into a good school, a good college. Okay. Now I don't agree with that. That's egregious and that's illegal as the fuck. Okay. It says she was swept up in the Varsity Blues investigation into corruption, bribery, and fraud in elite college admissions. And today she received a 2-week sentence. A decade ago, Williams Bowler was a single black mother living in public housing. And in 2011, the state of Ohio convicted and imprisoned her for falsifying her address to get her kids into a better public school. Okay, it says at Huffman's sentencing hearing, a federal prosecutor cited Williams Bowler case in calling prison the Great Leveler. Okay, so they used the black woman's case um, in the white woman's case, but they're two totally separate situations. One paid somebody to falsify documents, and they're saying that she falsified documents as well. But I'm gonna let this article breathe a little bit. It says one is a story of a family having everything and wanting more, exemplifying the opportunity hoarding of America. Uh, Exemplifying the opportunity hoarding of America, often unaccountable one percenters. The other is the story of a family working with what they had, seeking opportunity amid the deep forces of segregation, wealth, inequality, and public underinvestment. All right, it says Williams Bowler did not mean to become a cause of celebrity any more than Huffman. She did not even realize what she was doing. She was doing anything wrong at the time. So that's a very, you know, different different approach. One willingly knew that she was committing a crime, and the other one was just doing what she thought was right that ended up being a crime. But what does the scripture say? You know what I'm saying? For them that know, it is roughly paraphrasing, of course. For them that know to do wrong, it is sin. Okay, so and if you do right when you don't know it's right, then what? It's counted for righteousness. So it says having divorced her abused spouse, she was attending the University of Akron, working as a teacher's aide and raising her daughters, Kayla and Jada. She wanted to become a teacher as well as a homeowner. She told me, and she told me, and she wanted to raise her daughters in a better circumstances than she grew up in. It says that meant seeking better options than the low performing Akron public schools her daughters were attending. At one of them, the ceiling was falling in. It says extensive water damage, mold, and old and outdated textbooks, overworked teachers, and unruly classmates. You know, if you're really actually trying to learn, it's difficult to do it in a situation like that, where the teachers don't want to teach, the students don't want to learn. The building was literally falling apart, Okay, what parent would be wrong to want to put their children in a better situation than that? Okay, so and then I guess one of the youngest one was getting bullied. It says just jump down. It says William Bowler's father, Edward Williams, who lived nearby, spent ample time taking care of the girl. William Bowler split time between the two homes herself. So this is the dad's house. Okay, so the mom lives right here. The dad lives over here. And the mom and the kids spend time between the two houses. Okay? It says, especially after her house was burglarized, the family decided to enroll the girls in the school using his address in the nearby Kobe Fairlawn School District, which met all of Ohio's 26 educational standards, whereas Akron only met 4. Now, it's a whole nother story why the Akron schools are only meeting 4 out of 26, you know, metrics that they have to meet. But there's a school in which the father lives in, the district that the father lives in, that they should be able to, that they did use for them to go to those schools. But the so called white man didn't like that. Okay. Now you could say she could have just gave custody to the father and that would have been all right. I'm not sure if that's what happened afterwards, but either way it goes, this is not a felony. All right. This woman got felony charges for this. Let me see if I can. She said she loved that in the suburbs, the girls were going to classrooms with far more resources. At the schools out in Copley, that they had acres of land. They all had greenhouses. They had experience. They had an experience that the inner city kids would never understand. You see, she told me it was so fabulous, science and everything else too. But the science is what took me over. Was what took me overboard. I was like, look at this. They've got a greenhouse and it's beautiful. So they were actually thriving, given a chance to do what America always says, what that you can be what you want to be. But you can't be what you want to be with the ceiling falling in and there's distractions everywhere. It's just not going to happen. And that's we are systematically in these type of situations as a people. It says what the Williams Bowler family engaged in is called boundary hopping or district hopping, or when it gets caught in a legal system, it's called residency fraud or enrollment fraud. There are no hard numbers on how common it is, but it's very, very common. Educational experts believe popularity where high achieving and low achieving school districts about one another and where one in inequally in inequality is accurate. Okay, one survey of public schools in Berkeley, California, for instance, suggests that 8 to 12% of the enrolled students live out of bounds. So, I mean, this is terrible. So I believe she ended up she got a 5 year sentence. She ended up getting a 5 year sentence and only had to serve 9 days, but it was a suspended sentence. So she always had that chance of going back to jail within that 5 year period. But man, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. That's why we got to get out of this place. You know what I'm saying? This is Isaiah chapter 10, verse 1. It says, woe to them that decree unrighteous decrees and right grievousness which they have prescribed. If there was any decree that was an unrighteous decree, it's to put that woman in jail for any amount of time or charge her with any crime from wanting her children to have a better life and to put an address on their paperwork that was their father's house that they spend time in. I can see if it was, they third cousin, you know what I'm saying, that they don't really even see like that, and they live out west, and you put their address down, and now you get to go to the better schools. That's their father's house that was on there, and they stay there half the time. Like most kids go back and forth between parents that have split. It says to turn aside the needy from judgment and to take away the right from the poor of my people. That's what they're doing, man. They're taking the right. They're taking away the rights of the poor of the people, which is us. All right, we are getting the short end of the stick, time in and time out, time in and time out. It says that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. And who was their prey in this situation? It was the woman. She's not a widow. Her husband is not dead, but they're separated, so it's pretty much the same situation. So it says, and what will ye do in the day of visitation and in the desolation which shall come from far? Or whom will ye flee for help? And where will you leave your glory? Talking to the so-called white man. What are you going to do when the Most High comes to visit you? All right, when he comes to get recompense for this situation and for every other situation that you've done with your legal system. All right, with your unrighteous decrees. You know, what you gonna do? We know what you're gonna do. You're gonna get destroyed. That's what's gonna happen. All right. So, all in all, I hope this was edifying. And shedding a little bit of light on the situation. This Kaepernick show, I believe it's like 6 episodes. They're like a half hour apiece. Definitely suggest to watch it. It's a lot of good information. And with that being said, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS. Salute and honors to the elect, all the brothers across the four corners who are enduring in truth and sincerity to the women and children who follow. Shalom.